Hello everyone, welcome back to Major Hi-Fi. Today we have yet another, perhaps the third or fourth video we're doing on a Kennerton headphone. We have the Gjallarhorn GH50 JM edition. So these run for $12.99, so they're kind of, I guess, the upper end of Kennerton's price range, which goes pretty far up and pretty far down too. There's definitely a good variety of headphones in their price range, but they are all luxury prices. These are very high-end, kind of boutique, somewhat niche headphones in a way. But I think anyone who is a collector or an audiophile or is into headphones should just have this company on their radar. They really do have some hidden gems of the headphone world in their product line, and they don't get talked about enough. So I'm gonna talk about them, and y'all should talk about them more because everything I've reviewed from them so far has been like incredible. These were actually the first pair of headphones I heard from Kennerton, but I did not make a video review on them at the time. So now I got to kind of dive back into them and revisit them after having heard basically almost all of their other headphones. And they still stood the sort of test, I guess, against all the other ones. I was sort of like, I know I really liked them when I heard them, but after having heard the majority of their product line and enjoying all of those a lot, I was thinking maybe these aren't gonna sound as good as I remembered, but they did. So let me talk about how it sounds and all that and how they stack up against the other Kennerton headphones, and let's start out just by unboxing it. Yeah, let's get into it. All right, so there's not a lot to unbox here. I actually took it all out anyways because this is just a very unwieldy box to do on camera. But we have this carrying case. It's a big leather carrying case, the same ones you've seen in all the other videos. And then we just unzip this, and inside we have the headphones. These are a limited edition stabilized maple blue. We're about to take a closer look at those. We have a 2-meter cable, 6.3 millimeter gold-plated TRS connectors, and that's all you get, just the case, the cable, and the headphones. Simple as that. Let's take a closer look at these headphones. So all the Kennerton headphones have this kind of vintage meets modern look. We've got the wooden paneling on the outside and then the really sort of arching metal frame going on. Similar to their other headphones, these are not small. They're large headphones. They definitely have some kind of chic air traffic controller vibes to them, but nothing wrong with that. I like it. I like the look of these. I like the look of all of their headphones. They do look luxury. They do not look cheap, and that's what you would hope for the price tag, and especially this this blue version, which does cost I think a couple $100 more than just the normal other finishes they have, which are also beautiful. And then these have the same adjustable head strap that all of the Kennerton headphones have, which is really nice, or most of them at least. And then yeah, I'll just put these on for a minute. They definitely have some heft to them. They're not super heavy. They're, I think, a little bit under a pound, and they don't feel heavy at all on your head. I know that it might not seem like it looking at them, but I promise you it's really not like a super heavy headphone. I've worn heavier. And then the ear cups are super plush and soft, which is great for just comfort. They don't create any like kind of unpleasant extra heat or friction or anything. They're just very soft, and there's a lot of room for your ear in there. So yeah, overall comfort and looks wise, these are definitely a bit particular in terms of the looks, but they are very comfortable, and obviously the sound is what matters. So both the original GH50 and this one use a 50mm dynamic driver. However, there's this material called graphene on the driver, which was invented by Kennerton, and it's supposed to basically instill some qualities of planar magnetic headphones, even though it's a dynamic driver, but also keep some of the qualities of dynamic drivers, kind of like the best of both worlds type of thing. And then when it comes to the JM edition, basically one of the first owners of the GH50 was this guy, John Masaraya, I hope I'm saying it right. And he basically modified his headphones by putting some little furniture dots around this graphene mylar membrane on the driver. He claimed that this basically improved the precision and the sound separation. And so I guess Kennerton was into it, and they decided to make a version. Obviously, maybe they feel like it doesn't improve it as much as it just gives an altercation, but because, you know, they still sell the original Gjallarhorn, but this is supposed to kind of be, I guess, a at least altered, maybe improved version. And these have an impedance of 55 ohms and a frequency response of 10 hertz to 50 kilohertz. So yeah, let's talk about how these sound. So when it comes to the Soundstage, if you're looking for an open back sound from a closed back headphone, well, that doesn't make very much sense, does it? But some people just want to have it all. And this, sort of similar to the other Kennerton closed backs we've talked about, is insanely wide to a level that is pretty unheard of before. I guess it's the graphene or something going on in there that just really adds an insane amount of width to these. So it's a really airy surround sound feel. You're gonna get a ton of room for the instrumentation to perform in. It definitely never feels like they're getting crowded. There's always extra room for things to keep on stretching out and bending in, which is so nice. The same goes for the depth. There never feels like it's, shallow or lacking any sense of dimension. I just feel like the way the soundstage on this feels to me, like I said, is just like there's tons of extra space for everything. So there's never a feeling like things are hitting up against the walls of the headphone. Things are always kind of just playing in this very large sonic field that's been created. And yeah, if you want a big soundstage, but you're just like, no way to, open backs, or maybe you are up for an open back, but you just like, the Gjallarhorn for another reason, then you don't have to worry about not getting that wide soundstage that you might get with an open back, because these are pretty close. In fact, they probably do sound as wide as some open back headphones. I'm not going to go as far to say that they are, as wide or wider than any open back headphone, of course, that wouldn't make sense. But they definitely compete way more than most closed backs can with an open back, so that's the main point on the soundstage for these. So the low end on these is pretty beefed up. It's definitely the bassiest of the Kennerton headphones I've heard, at least to my memory. Other headphones I've heard from Kennerton definitely had a little bit more of a subdued, subtle bass sound. This one is not. It's a bit more beefed up. It's got a bit more body and a bit more sub presence going on than I found in their other models. It does a good job of kind of balancing out, that 30 hertz area and then that kind of 50 to 60 hertz area by giving them a pretty equal chance to shine and not picking one over the other, which I really like. I feel like a lot of headphones kind of choose one and are like, let's make this the main event. And I'm like, well, why don't we have both? And then it still does a good job of leaving enough room for that kind of 125 hertz sort of pop attack heavy area to really make a point. It doesn't just give you the sub presence, then overshadow the attack, overshadow the tightness factor. And that is a really, really great way to give a kind of beefed up bass response and a much more sort of sophisticated, refined sound. So if you want a bassier headphone, but you want to see it through that really, state-of-the-art hi-fi lens, then this is the place to go. These are great for a clean but strong bass response that gives that cinematic feel. It's very stereo bass response, not afraid to stray far away from the middle of the stereo field, and really just a pretty flawless bass response going on in these. I don't have any notes for it, honestly. Hey guys, Luke here. Just wanted to pop in and say that if you're enjoying this video, it would be great if you could subscribe and hit the bell to get notified when we make new content, and hit the like button and leave us a comment if you have any suggestions or questions or anything like that. I would love to talk to you guys more. We would really love some help growing the channel, and just want to make sure that we're reaching our audience and whatnot. So yeah, any support is greatly appreciated, and let's get back to the review. All right, so the mid-range on these is interesting because it doesn't really sound intensely cut or boosted. At least on my initial listens, I didn't think to myself anything extreme was going on in the mid-range. And then I was listening to some songs that I know really well by like Joni Mitchell, Kate Bush, Cocteau Twins, some of my favorite artists. And songs that I know everything inside and out, and I can really tell what's being done to them. And that's when I realized that, oh, this is definitely cutting the high mid a lot. It is kind of a V-shaped response to an extent. And I was kind of surprised because the first time I heard these, I really didn't think of it that way. But this time around, I was kind of like, I guess I just maybe hadn't tested those tracks on it or something. So I was really interested in the fact that it's not this obvious cut, but it's definitely there, and it's pretty big. It's not crazy extreme, because like I said, you don't notice it super immediately, but once you notice it, you're like, oh, that's there. But it's easy to once again kind of let meld into the tuning. It becomes part of the bigger picture. So it's a well placed cut. It really performs well in just adding smoothness and not creating a sense of hollowness. The only times I noticed it was when I was like, I know exactly how the vocal frequency of this performs, and it's different, not in a bad way generally, but I was just like, you know, this part is being subdued. So yeah, it's got a bit more of a recessed high mid, like I've said a million times now. The low mid is probably boosted a tad. It's gonna sound even more boosted than it is because of the contrast to the cut high mid. And then it's a little bit colored in the low mid too, that adds some extra warmth and kind of like velvetiness to the rest of the sound signature. If you want a bit more of a pronounced mid-range or high mid-range from a Kennerton headphone, check out the Wodan or the Valley. I'll link to my reviews of those below. So yeah, the mid-range on these is definitely giving you a bit of modulation, but it does so in a very sneaky way. All right, so the high end on these is probably the most even keel part of their tuning. So we've got this like boosted bass, this kind of like, you know, cut areas of the mid-range, and then the high end is a bit more just like natural, neutral, not a ton going on, which I think is a great way to sort of finish things off in the frequency spectrum. It is a brighter, definitely a brighter headphone. It's not anything dark. If you want a darker headphone from Kennerton, check out the Roar. That has the darkest sound, I think, of any of their headphones. But this has a little bit of a shine to it, and definitely a very, very organic sounding high end that doesn't go for that intense shine. I always make that distinction. Honestly, not too many headphones have a super intense shine, but I feel like it's important to say when I'm saying it's bright that it's not like in your face bright, but it's definitely not for someone who wants a darker, damper sound. I would say overall the high end on this, I kind of have like almost less to say about in a good way because it's just very transparent. It didn't feel like it was putting a lot of kind of reformatting onto the sound. It was very, very just clear. It just to me felt like a part of the sound signature that blended very well. It wasn't sticking out. So yeah, the high end for me just felt kind of like very clean and, you know, bright but conservatively bright, and it was really letting that kind of low mids and low end like do some of the heavy lifting, but really getting a nice crisp layer to kind of shape things out and create a nice edge. All right, so overall, I had a feeling that listening to the Gjallarhorn GH50 JM Edition again would be a really nice experience, and I was correct. It was just as great as I remembered it. It's definitely perhaps my favorite Kennerton headphone. I think because it's probably the like most balanced sort of crowd-pleasing sound of all their models. They have a vast variety of sound signatures. They definitely are not a company that kind of tends to go for a certain sound or a certain tuning. They do definitely go for a consistently wide soundstage, you know, because why not? But they don't go for anything in the tuning that feels repetitive. I've always noticed a totally different sound from every headphone they've had. They definitely like to do a tuning that really has sort of some uniqueness to it and takes some interesting directions and isn't maybe like something you've heard before, which is great. And these are definitely very interesting and not something you've heard before in many senses, but the tuning itself in terms of what frequencies are boosted and cut feels very like pretty neutral and transparent. So I just think it's great for if you like don't want anything to be super extremely cut or boosted. This is definitely great for giving you that balanced sound. All right, that's all I have for you today. I'll be back soon with some more reviews and videos. If you want to check out Major Hi-Fi's headphone ranking tool, we have all the Kennerton headphones on there. You can compare them to one another or to other brands, whatnot. And yeah, I'll be back very soon. And until next time, happy listening.